All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Rick Amato, sitting in for Dr. Gina. She takes the night off. This is America Trends on YouTube America. All right, as you know, over the past several years, gun rights, the Second Amendment, if you will, have been under assault, pun intended, here in America by the mainstream media, by this administration, and some would say for good reason. Now, we have just seen a horrific, blood-curdling attack of a family outside of Cincinnati in Ohio. 8 family members were shot and murdered in the middle of the night, execution style, at 3 or 4 different homes. Those who are against the Second Amendment are saying this is another example of why guns, too many guns, are horrific for America. But my next guest says, hold on a second. Guns in the hands of certain people, particularly women, is the right to protect themselves. Natasha Sweatte joins me. And Natasha, you've become a Second Amendment advocate.
Yes, sir.
And you were the target of a stalker that could have turned them into a very ugly situation.
Yes.
And you went out and taught yourself, not literally taught you, but went to shooting ranges to learn how to protect yourself.
That's exactly right. When I lived in Pacific Beach,
California, San Diego,
right after I graduated college, somebody came into my house, broke into my house 3 different times. This guy was supposedly following runners, and when the runner would come home...
And you were and are a runner.
And I'm a runner, yes. So one morning, I went for my normal run in the morning, came home, took a shower, you know, getting ready for school, and this guy breaks into my house, and thankfully, a friend of mine was sleeping on my couch and saw the guy.
Wow.
Called the cops. Cops didn't want to do anything. Came back
Why?
2 other times because I wasn't assaulted. If something bad happened, then they would step in.
Wow.
His prints were on the door, willing to cooperate, not interested. So yes, I did obtain a CHL when I lived in Texas. Here in California, I am undergoing classes at Poway Weapons and Gear, and I'm learning as much as I possibly can. But in San Diego, it's next to impossible to obtain your CCW. It's completely political.
CCW?
Concealed Carry Weapons license.
Now, what's your message out there to those who say the Ohio shooting, for example, just a horrific tragedy,
yes,
is another example of there's too many guns in America. We've got to do something to clamp down on guns. What do you say? What's your argument against that?
Okay, so we're never going to be able to take guns away from criminals and terrorists. So why are we disarming people who are already abiding by the law, when in fact these people need to be armed so that we can protect ourselves against those unstable people? And for instance, Ohio, if those people were armed,
that's true, yeah,
they could have possibly defended themselves.
Yeah, I mean, these family members, some were shot while sleeping, others were beat up and then shot, which you know they didn't have any weapons to protect themselves.
Right.
So do you feel safer now that you have learned to carry a weapon?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't, because of law right now, I'm hoping it changes. I can't carry it in my purse, I can't carry it on my person, but yes, at home I do feel safer. All
right, so at home you do.
Yes.
Now the narrative in pop culture is against the Second Amendment today, unfortunately.
The only amendment, it seems like, for some reason, let's attack the Second Amendment, not the First Amendment, not the Fifth, but the Second.
That's right. Now, you're following some important legislation going on across America. One of it, which is here in a very liberal state of California, that relates to the Second Amendment. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, right now there's at least 8 big bills that are pending that people are referring to as Gunmageddon. Our lieutenant governor, who so badly wants to become governor, he's throwing out as many bills as he possibly can. Right now, he says that he has 600,000 signatures, and if at least 365,000 of those are valid, he's going to get things on the ballot like, oh, you're going to need a background check if you want to buy ammunition. You need a background check if you want to buy ammunition? Are you kidding me? They're just making it next to impossible for us to be able to defend ourselves against those unstable people, the criminals and the terrorists.
So what would you say to those in the Obama administration, those at the New York Times, who are saying that I hear your argument. They disagree with that argument. They say, look, you look at Australia where they took guns away, and I don't know if this is accurate, but this is what I hear from the left all the time, and gun assaults and violence have gone down in Australia. Now, someone told me that hammer assaults have gone up in Australia. What's your argument to those on the left who dismiss this idea that only bad guys have guns?
Well, I mean, that's what happened in New York. Then violence increases. I mean, if you look at Chicago, you look at Los Angeles, where the gun laws there are very strict.
Chicago, absolutely.
The violence is outrageous. And so that's exactly what happens. And as soon as people can actually arm themselves and protect themselves, like in Texas when I did live there, people were armed, and there's not a whole lot of violence going on.
You bring up a good point that Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in America, and it's one of the most violent cities. The left will often say that we have violence in our cities because we have the most lenient gun laws in the world. But when you look at Chicago, it looks like there's something else at play here. I asked you about what advice you would have, or to those on the left. What about those women out there across America watching this now, or men, who feel unsafe and have never taken that step to protect themselves with a gun or learn how to do it? What advice might you have for them?
Well, the thing is that I didn't grow up around firearms, and it can be very intimidating. And so the best thing is to take a few classes, to go to your indoor shooting ranges, outdoor shooting ranges, and get comfortable. Find out what kind of gun feels good in your hand, and be with a professional and just practice. You need to practice, and also practice situational awareness. When you're out in the parking lot, look where you are, who's around, because I just hear about the most horrific stories, and it's just better for all of us, especially women, to be more aware, because it doesn't matter how strong we are, how much we work out, men have more testosterone than we do. We are just made differently.
I saw you said that in a YouTube video. Tell us how you feel that plays into this.
Well, I mean, men and women are not the same.
Just different.
We are different biologically, and nothing can change that unless you want to take something synthetic. But naturally, we are not the same.
And the reason I'm smiling is we're now in a culture where we're deciding to have people choose their own restroom. So the people that believe in that narrative are the people who also believe that guns are not a good idea. All right, Natasha, any final comments?
Just get out there and don't be afraid. It's the best thing you can possibly do is to arm yourself. The hope is that you never have to use it.
Absolutely.
But knowing how to use it could be life-saving.
And I just want to say before you let you go, I just learned this about you in the last day or two. I was not aware you had this in your background, that you're the victim, this target of a stalker, and that you've come out and become someone who's become well skilled at carrying a gun, not carrying a gun, but keeping a gun at home. And for those who recognize Natasha, who may have followed me, Natasha's a former news anchor at One American News, where I had the talk shows. We knew each other from there. So it's good to see you, Natasha.
Good to see you, too.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and keep getting the message out there.
Thank you so much.
All right. We come back. We'll have a rapid fire round. That's next. But first, check out this video.